The Browns getting after it with their search for a new defensive coordinator. Yesterday, it was Jim Schwartz interviewing. Today, Brian Flores, former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, is in Berea for the interview process with the Browns defensive coordinator position. Some of the beat reporters from the Steelers say he will have other opportunities as well. Will be interesting to see. One thing about Flores, his defenses in Miami were very good. Take a listen to this explanation of what they did well.
In 2019, Miami's defense was dead last in the NFL by DVOA. In 2020, the Dolphins jumped to 11th overall and 6th in pass DVOA. They went from giving up 35 points per game to just 21. All this improvement was spurred by the fronts and pressure packages from Brian Flores and great secondary play from Xavier Howard and new addition Byron Jones. Miami had one of the highest blitz and pressure rates in the NFL, with almost 10% of their blitzes coming from a cover zero look with no deep help. They also brought 5 or more rushers on over 1/3 of their defensive snaps. They weren't without flaws, especially in the run game, but the defense came up big without the big names to back it up. The Dolphins took double mug schemes and ramped it up to the max with their cover zero overload looks. While they only ended up blitzing and being in a true cover zero about 10% of the time, that didn't stop them from showing cover zero and bailing out of it. Cover zero means there are 0 deep defenders. Everyone is at the line of scrimmage and in man coverage. It's a high risk and high reward defensive scheme, and Flores was really unfazed by the risk it brought. He would run it in 2-minute drills at the goal line and in some critical moments during games. The Dolphins are in one of those cover zero looks right here. The secondary outside are all in man coverage. The Dolphins coach their guys to engage as much as possible with the offensive linemen before they bail to their coverage spots. This forces the offensive line and protection schemes to engage with them and open up lanes elsewhere. If they have free releases and aren't picked up on that initial step forwards, they have the clear to continue on their track and attack the quarterback.
Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, you saw that look where you got the 3 defensive backs. I can easily envision Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson in that and kind of turning everybody loose. I think the players love playing in that system because it's aggressive and it shows a trust in them.
Yeah, the one thing I do worry about with all the, because I like Brian Flores as well, but the one thing I have to keep an eye on is whenever we replace a coach, right, there's this tendency to want to go in the extreme opposite direction of the guy that was just the coach previously. And I worry that we might be going too far in that direction because, on paper, going zero coverage, zero blitzing a lot, that sounds fun. But in theory, it gives you a lot of the same issues that you were worried about with the Joe Woods defense, just in a different way. Because what's a zero blitz that gets beat? It's a blown cover. It looks like blown coverage. It's a big play that you're giving up, right? So, that's why I worry about Martin Emerson, somebody who needs overhead coverage in order to be the corner that he is. He's not really a long speed guy. If you look at the tape when he was covering against Devonta Smith, he got cooked deep intermediate right by him. So I like Brian Flores. I would hope that he tones down some of the aggressiveness. I know nobody wants to hear that because all we want to hear is the opposite of Joe Woods. But the opposite of Joe Woods, the inverse of Joe Woods, does not mean that he's going to be good automatically just because the philosophy is different. So that's what I will worry about, right? Because, yes, that's going to make people happy in the short term. They blitz. But if we get to week 8 and we blow a game because we zero blitz like he did in Miami at the end of the first half, and give up 7 free points, I don't think we're going to be that's just the risk that we run when we run cover zero, right? The same way we weren't hey, sometimes we might give up a 3rd and 7 because we run a lot of zone, but we're going to stop big plays, right? You know what I mean? It's the what you have to take is not going to go in if the defense isn't performing. And I would just caution people on that. Zero blitzing sounds great on paper, but a lot of people in the league go, you really shouldn't zero blitz that much. And that was one of the big criticisms of Brian Flores that I hope he changes because we can't live zero blitzing like that. That's going to be dangerous for a team with something to lose. And also remember, those Miami teams had nothing to lose. They were actively trying to lose. That's part of what the lawsuit was. So, yeah, he was zero blitzing and doing whatever he wanted because, 1, he didn't have the talent, and 2, what else? Like, why not? Right? Like, this is different because if you zero blitz this year and cost the game this year, everybody's getting fired. So different scenario. I hope would call for different philosophy. He's not going to be as aggressive as he was in Miami. I don't anticipate that. But also fans should probably not want that because, yes, we're going to want to go in that opposite direction. I don't know if going all the way over there does anything but keep us in the same carousel we've been in for the last 20 years.
All right, but they got to be more aggressive than they were. I mean, you've got
speed.
Absolutely. I mean, they just were not. They were. I would say they were passive.
No. They can't be. They can't live rushing like 5 and calling that a blitz, right? Like that's not what they can live doing anymore. They have to be more aggressive in certain situations. They should let them play more man, but we don't need to go into the excess of that conversation, which is where Brian Flores kind of dipped in Miami. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think he would be different here because it's a different situation, but also it's something to look for because right now we're looking at him being in the excess in that conversation is a good thing. But it's not really, right? Like, so it's just a good thing in comparison to Joe Woods, who was the exact opposite. So we got to see where he would line on that.
All right, perspective there. I get it. This is kind of interesting. This is a look at what his defenses did in Miami. So 2020, they had 29 turnovers. They forced 29 turnovers. That was first in the NFL. 2.6 sacks per game, tied for 8th. 2021, 26 turnovers, tied for 8th in the NFL, 2.8 sacks per game.